Welcome to Algebra 2 class. Today is December 2nd. It looks like it out there. Anyways, hope you had a good day off yesterday. Today we're going to look at the quadratic formula. And so for quite a few of you, this is familiar to you. And so I'm hoping that it'll be pretty easy. Anyways, this is the quadratic formula and it gives us the zeros. And this you need just to have memorized. Just need to know it. The b is going to be the number that's directly in front of the x. In this case, it would be -8 would be the b. The a would be whatever's in front of the x squared. In this case, it would be a 1, an invisible 1, but it's there. The c would be the +10. Make sure that you know that that's a +10, and b was a -8. And then 2a on the bottom. So you just take and plug numbers into this formula, and it will give you the zeros, or the x-intercepts, for the parabola that you're doing. All these are parabolas because all of them are quadratics. All right, so let's go ahead and use the quadratic formula on this one so you can see how it works. I would suggest that you write the formula down first every time. This is what x equals, just because that will help you to get it memorized. If you already have it memorized, then you can start at the second step. That's fine. Just be careful. So -b would be 8 plus or minus the square root b squared. -8 times -8 is 64. And then here we'd go -4 times a is 1 times c is 10. Do not skip this step. This is where most mistakes are made. Over 2 times 1. Some of it you can do in your head, but do not skip this step. So then we get 8 plus or minus the square root. I always do this side over here first. 4 times 1 is 4 times 10 is 40. And then 64 minus 40 is 24. And so that part's done. And then that'd be all over 2. Now the square root of 24 breaks down into 2 times 2 times 2 times 3. So that means a 2 could come out. So I end up with 8 plus or minus 2 times the square root of, there'd be a 6 left inside, all over 2. Now both 8 and the 2 here can both be divided by 2. And so the answer that you would see in the book is 8 divided by 2 is 4 plus or minus. These 2's would just cancel out to 1, so you'd be left with the square root of 6. So if this problem was in the book, that's what the answer would be in the back of the book. Okay, number 2 up here, same idea again. I'm going to go ahead and start out with the second step because I have it memorized. Okay, so -b, the negative of -1 is a +1. Boy, is that an easy mistake to make. Plus or minus the square root of b squared, so -1 times -1 would be 1, minus 4 times a is 3 times c is 8, and that's all over 2 times 3 would give me 6. Don't skip that step. I think you've heard me say that enough times already. 1 plus or minus the square root. Okay, I'm going to do this part over here first. 4 times 3 is 12. 12 times 8 is 96. 1 subtract 96 would give me a -95. And then that would be all over 6. So you can't leave the negative inside the square root, and so that's where your I is going to come in. So your final answer would be 1 plus or minus I times the square root of 95, and that would all be over 6. Which basically means that the parabola where it crosses the x-axis is actually imaginary, but we'll get to that in a minute. Okay, so those are 2 examples of how to use the quadratic. And then down here, they want you also to use the discriminant. You guys, the discriminant is b squared minus 4ac, which if you look back all the way over to here, is just what's inside your square root for your quadratic formula. Now what the discriminant does is it tells you about your zeros. It won't tell you what they are, but it will tell you about them. And so we're going to solve these using the discriminant, and then I'll tell you what they mean. So I'm going to use b squared minus 4ac, so I'm going to go ahead and write that down. B squared minus 4ac, and then I'm going to plug these numbers in. So b is -4, Negative 4 squared would be 16 minus 4 times A is 1 times C is 4. So I end up with 16 minus 16, which is 0. If you get a 0 for the answer for the discriminant, that means that there is one real 0, and by 0 we mean x-intercept. Don't confuse this 0 with that one. All right, next one we're going to try is this one. So I'm going to start out with b squared minus 4ac. So b squared would be 16 minus 4 times a is 1, c is 8. So now we end up with 16 minus 4 times 8 is 32. So I end up in this one with a negative 16. That tells me there are two non-real zeros, or x-intercepts. That's what that means. So they're non-real. Basically that means imaginary, so they kind of use those words interchangeably, non-real and imaginary. And then over here, this last one, we're going to go ahead and do b squared minus 4ac again. B squared would be 16 minus 4 times a is 1. C is negative 2. So when we do this one, we get 16. I always do this part first. 4 times 1 is 4 times 2 is 8. That's negative 8. The negative of negative 8 is plus 8. So if I add those two together, 16 and 8, I just get 24. A 24 is a positive answer. I'll go back and circle all these. So if you get a positive answer, that means there's two real zeros, or x-intercepts. So that means that it crosses the x-axis in two places, and you can actually see it in real time, in real life. So that's what the discriminant does for you, and they gave you 7 problems on that and several problems on this as well. Okay, so your assignment, I'm going to come and get it for you. By the way, Megan Lucy is still on my board. They've threatened, but I haven't let them take it. So Algebra 2, you guys have page 361, 1 through 17, problem steps and answer. All right, and that will be due tomorrow. Tomorrow I'll send a practice quiz out for you guys, and we will see you tomorrow then. Well, I'll just send the practice quiz out. Hope you have a great day. Bye.